Hey everyone, welcome to a very, very hot LinkedIn Live on this Wednesday lunchtime. For those that are tuning in now, thank you so much for joining us live. Please make sure that you ask questions. This is your opportunity to hear from some brilliant experts in the room. And if you're watching it on playback, I will be putting up the QR codes for our LinkedIn profiles. You can drop us a line and ask questions as a follow-up. And we'll also be putting a little learning session out afterwards, a learning PDF you can download from the website. So we love at Launch to get experts involved. And today we've got two amazing experts, one homegrown from Launch and the other from our partner agency, Resignal, who we work very closely with on SEO and want to do more and more with. We've just been to their brilliant Ecommerce event, and although you've missed it for this year, please do sign up for next year. So guys, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, cool. I'll go first. Danny, head of paid at Launch. And I look after the strategy with regards to all our paid clients. And particular today, an e-commerce. I love e-commerce and feeds, and like Jay will probably say, and she's probably said a million times, if you get me talking on feeds, then God help you. I can't stop.
And I'm Callum, Director of Organic Search at Resignal. Resignal is, as Jay mentioned, an organic search agency working predominantly with e-com clients. At Resignal, I work mainly on the service offering and taking us forward as an agency in terms of how we're supporting our clients.
Awesome. Well, it is great to have you here today. Today, we're going to be talking the Google Shopping Foundations every scaling e-commerce brand should have in place by September. And we say September because obviously that is the dawn of the Black Friday Q4 season. And there's lots and lots of things that have been changing within Google Shopping, within e-commerce. We've got the dawn of UCP coming too. So I'm sure we'll touch a little bit on that today. But why we've got PPC and SEO together is because that is when you've got that working together, you are going to definitely supercharge your results in Google Shopping. So I'm going to bring up so that we can follow along a bit of a slide deck to help everyone. And I think we should go straight into it. So why don't each of you take in turns to kind of talk about what you see on your side of when they're siloed, when PPC and SEO are siloed.
Cool.
Danny, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. I think when we start working with any client, I think we start pulling in the feed, we use Shoptimize for our feed management, and I think you start pulling in the data, and that's when you start to understand the structure behind it, which is where Callum sits and where Callum's team then can get involved. It's kind of still not 100% or nowhere near where it needs to be for our point of view, and we then end up spending a lot of time rewriting titles, adding meta descriptions in, adding all the attributes in, which again is fun. I actually enjoy that side of it, and getting a feed to where we want it to be able to then go, that's the benchmark, and we can start testing from it. But it is a lot of that initial data pull is kind of where you kind of start to see all the gaps and all the holes in it. Exactly like the example states as well from Smoke and Grey. I think it's a great example of where we've seen brands and we've worked with in the past where they have particularly specific color matches that the website matches to, but from a paid aspect it doesn't really match, so we then have to spend a lot of time changing all those. But when we do that, nothing really changes on the website, to which then it's why Callum steps in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the biggest disconnect from an organic search perspective is actually the perception that all of this would be handled by like a paid team, because historically the merchant center feed lives with the paid team, and we've just kept it at arm's length. But because it's so important for organic shopping, and because the underlying data is so important for like something what Danny needs basically, and what the paid team need, it definitely can't be kept at arm's length, and it needs to be integrated as part of their wider strategy. You can't just go about like optimizing like that on-page content and hoping that say you're going to be visible for organic product listings. There's a holistic approach to take to it, and I think it all just comes down to having those that connected workflow basically, so you're not operating in those silos.
And quite often it can be client side, can't it? That they've also got separate teams. So you've got a completely siloed, 2 different agencies, 2 different teams, and then you get a real disconnect. A lot of the work, Danny, like you say, that you're doing just sits in the feed and doesn't actually impact the website. So, and one of the things that we see is that collaboration piece. How does that work, Callum? You know, how do you make sure that those teams are in the room?
The way we've done it, actually, speaking from experience, is encouraging in-person meetings where multiple agencies are in the room on the same day for that client. We've had some clients that have actually driven this, and then we've learned from those and been like, yeah, we probably need to sort this out as well. I guess like it gets rid of like your initial preconceptions that maybe they're not open to collaboration, and then you realize you've both got a shared goal that you can then work towards. And it's a lot easier for the client if you guys are getting on together, working to like basically growing revenue from organic search and paid search, Google shopping platform, if you will, together, and they're not sort of mediating between the two.
Absolutely.
So yeah. we love. I was going to say that the other bit, I think it is that disconnect of them thinking, oh, there's a bit like what you were saying, Jay, about the change in teams. You can, like, from our point of view, we can definitely see when there's been a change in when like from a client side, there's been a changeover of personnel there as well, where 1,000 SKUs have been wrote by one person, and then you can clearly tell that when new person came in, they changed how they were writing everything. Titles then suddenly change, and there is probably a bit of a grey area where the SEO on-site side of it does fall down with, if there is no agency involved, that's it then sits in-house with the client. But then is it the e-com team that to be able to get all the data in there, or who does it sit with? I think there's definitely a bit of a grey area internally.
Coming down to people. It always comes down to people. We love all agency days here. So let's talk then a little bit about the data that kind of sits behind it, and that single source of truth. Callum, do you want to go first on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is probably one of the most misunderstood areas when you first start getting into like organic shopping. If you're adding that into your quiver or your strategy from an organic perspective, is understanding the where that data needs to come from, because on a foundational level, we're not talking about necessarily always like jumping straight into the feed or optimizing structured data. It's taking a step back for a moment and looking at the actual product sheets that your e-com team are getting, and making sure that data is enriched and stored in a centralized location that both teams, like the SEO team, the PPC team, can work from. So they're working from the same enriched data source, basically. Because, yeah, like Danny was saying, optimizing that feed in the silo is no good. Like they're doing a load of work there, and yes, it's having great results, but we can almost like borrow from some of that success if it's done in the source data.
Yeah, and I think the flipping it the other way around and it getting done first in the source data and getting that done then gives us a better benchmark to be able to then build upon, to be able to then go, okay, how should the titles look? How are the descriptions? Have they got enough in there? Is the product types, the labels, actually, like, if that's already there, brilliant, great. Like we can start using that from a testing element, but also from a free listings point, and then a secondary paid point, and then firing it out to affiliates and to other channels and things like that. I think that gives us a great platform to be able to do it, because we will take the, where maybe we don't work with the brand's affiliate feed and it's direct off the website. It's kind of just sat there on its own, being left to its own devices at that level, because that's how the client wants to leave it set up and running. So yeah, foundation changes are probably the key to this, I would say.
Yeah, and just for, sorry, I forgot to say, from like a practical perspective, we'll say Shopify, if you're on Shopify, like the meta fields feature is probably what we're talking about here in terms of like adding additional data to your products. So the initial intention isn't to get that on the page, it's to just have it there so it can be used in the feed.
Nice. So we've got here something that you prepared, Callum, from a talk that you've done.
Yeah.
I'd love for the people that are watching today to have some practical things that they can take away as well. So talk us through this.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack underneath each of these, I think. But these, if I was to pick 3 things from an organic shopping perspective, and now there is some synergies here with the paid feeds as well, these are the 3 things that would really focus on getting right from an organic shopping visibility standpoint. And that is the product titles, making sure that your product titles are logical and have, let's say, enriched data, to say it again. So it's not just a specific product name. It has like the brand, if necessary, what type of product it is, maybe even a color, and then ensuring that your product schema is reflective of that and all the other data that's on there. You want complete product schema, minimal errors, and preferably in a way that matches your feed, which brings us on to the third point. The on-site content and the feed content need to be really consistent. So when I say that feed to page consistency, I usually incorporate product schema in there. So you realistically want a similar title across all 3, if not the same. And those 3 things, once you're eligible for free listings and you've got rid of all of your, so if you have any errors, once you've got rid of those, this is essentially the 3 most important things to see a big jump in visibility.
And Danny, can you talk to how we test these things? Because who knows what a good product title is? How do you find out?
I think first and foremost, start with a consistent structure of taking the data, understanding what it is. Is it the product, what the product is their size and attributes, is their color attributes, is there going to be brand or non-brand terms that we're going to embed to the front of it, the back end of it, and then start testing with the layout of that. Do we trying to get away from, there's also there's a character length that you want to aim for as well. You don't want to really be shoveling the amount of times we've seen like titles that are far too long. You're just not going to see any of the like after the first 80-90 characters. It's going to be kind of redundant at that point, and you're not going to see it. Yes, it may improve click-through rate at some point, but really does it when you're not being able to show that? So from a testing element, it's getting a structure, a consistent structure for all your products, and then start looking at, okay, what is the testing element that we're going to do with color, without color, brand at the front, brand at the back, removing things like the word size. Like, we don't need that. I've seen a number of clients over the last couple of months and weeks where we're seeing that embedded into the like, people understand if it's a trainer, it's a 10. They don't need to know size 10 like that to make that. It's just signposting it too much, and that's just killing the amount of data that you can actually show in it. So there's that side of it.
It's that balance, isn't it? But depending on what the client's kind of main goal is, if it's brand protection, then you need the brand in there. If it's not brand protection, maybe you're not as well known a brand, you can front load non-brand terms and then put the brand later on in the description. Yeah,
we've run tests where we've seen click-through rate and conversion rate improve by removing brand, because brand on the shopping SERP will show the brand name anyway from the merchant center. So when that's already there, it's, do we need to deduplicate it realistically? No. So let's test it and let's see what the impact is, and don't just test for a couple of days. Test for a period of time and run that out over a month, 6 weeks.
Callum, talk us through this example.
Yeah. Okay. So from this probably reflects quite well what Danny was just saying. There's extreme situations where product titles are named this way. In this specific example, ASICS wasn't named like this bad. This is just for illustrative purposes. But we do see it where the product titles are reflective of like your internal merchandising system. So we talked about the data that goes, say, into Shopify. If you have a product, Nova Blast 5, which is a running shoe, and you have various attributes attached to it, like color, size, but the core product name is Nova Blast 5, and that's what pulls through to your feed and through to your page, we'd really look at enriching that with a bit more of a description. So in this case, for the goal will be to get non-branded visibility through organic shopping by way of matching with like the intent around like the men's running shoe, and a bit of the brand name in there as well. It does really depend. I'd recommend doing the research in terms of what the existing data within the organic shopping SERPs show in terms of like the names they're using for products. So how the products are showing in there, because they can. I'm sure you've seen it in organic shopping. It pulls together a bunch of different retailers under the same product name. Realistically, you want to be somewhere very close to that main name, and not a complete outlier.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And I do the other bit to that is I don't think there's from a paid element, there's not this is the right way to do it as well. Like I think it's testing, like moving these around and maybe putting Nova Blast 5 first and then the brand and trying that. I think if you do a search for that particular product, you will see different variations from a paid element. From the free listings element that Callum's pulling down, it does definitely look around the ASICS Nova Blast running shoe structure that they've got. So again, it's having those two feeds working together, but having the right data in there to understand the strategy behind it.
Talk about the more in-depth stuff within the schema.
Yeah. So in terms of the structured data, like out of the box, you're probably going to get a lot of this from a Shopify perspective. If you're on Shopify, you're going to have all the stuff in green. Probably it's up to you to make sure that that's marked up. Populated correctly, because it will be marked up, like the product name. However, you can add additional detail in there. So this is what we talked about: enriching the data, adding like material, color, weight. There's a really interesting one actually. We work with a lot of sportswear brands, and you can add, there's a schema for physical activity category within product schema.
Oh, like cross training, cycling.
Yeah, and I actually don't know how valuable it is, but we just like to add it in when we can. And then variant schema is a massive one that is commonly mismanaged. So variant schema, if you think about your feed, you have your product ID, and then there are variants that come off that. Variant schema needs to replicate that really. So your product groups in your feed need to be replicated through variant schema. This has been done many ways in the past, but rarely is it done right on e-commerce websites. And it's one of like the biggest barriers to visibility we see from organic shopping when this is done incorrectly. So make sure you do research before implementing variant schema and make sure it matches what's in the feed as well.
Brilliant. Anything to add to this, Danny? I mean, obviously we use tools that scrape Shopify, so the greens are going to be there, but then are you adding the orange detail if it's missing the website? Yeah,
we are, and I think it's standardizing it, and I think there's some other ones as well that's really good. I think for sportswear and for clothing, it's like things like size type as well. So size type, so whether it's an EU or it's UK, like for trainers, so for the ASICS example, and then there is a size, there are another size as well for clothing. So whether it's petite, extra long, large, regular, like to be able to add to that, just to be able to make sure you've got that differentiate. Gender's another one as well, making sure, you know, male, female, unisex, to be able to show to the right people. So again, it's packing it as full as you can do and getting the right data in there.
Yeah. And, you know, again, an emphasis, in case some of you are just joining at this point, the emphasis is if you just do this in the feed, which often we are doing in PPC, you're missing so much of that organic picture by not doing it on the website itself. Well, and in fact, is this the right point, Callum, to also talk to the future of where things are going? Because not only is this important for Google Shopping, we must also say Microsoft, you know, shopping for meta catalogs, but there's more things coming, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah, there definitely is. So I don't know where to start in terms of the data that you are providing, not just even structured data, just the product data that you are providing in any form to search engines, including AI or AI systems. That is going to be the basis of almost like the future of shopping online. Allowing these systems to understand your product in greater detail will 100% future-proof you in sort of an area where we likely will see less traffic to the websites. We'll probably see less traffic to product pages even, and we're already seeing a shift between category pages and product pages now, which is why from an organic perspective we're focusing so heavily on PDPs, whereas previously we focused on category pages. The next shift is like maybe 10% of that product page traffic doesn't actually ever reach
Zero click.
So the zero click behavior is something that we need to be aware of, and you're not even going to be part of the sort of consumer journey if you don't have that product data readily available to these systems, which is essentially what I was trying to get across with this slide. Structured data is just one of the mechanisms for it.
Nice. Should we talk a little bit about consistency?
Yeah, so I did mention this before when I briefly touched on the structured data bits, but in terms of like the consistency between the feed, the page, and the website, the biggest risk here is obviously feed disapprovals and just completely dropping out of visibility altogether. But the more consistent this data is, the better your visibility is. From an organic shopping perspective, it will look at these three areas and look for consistency across them. But yeah, you certainly don't want to be accidentally dropping the paid teams because the paid teams products out the feed.
Yeah, we'll start getting a lot of warnings within the merchant center, which will be great.
Well, actually, that's a really good point to raise here. The communication between paid and SEO is really important at this point, because often it's possible to have two separate feeds, but there are instances where it's not possible. So making those changes is important to keep everybody in the loop, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think just thinking upon like the actions around the merchant center issues, like in the issue report, just making sure that like we're both aware. Like if for some reason there's a catastrophic thing going on and all feeds that aren't available, who owns that? And who's involved? Because that is actually something we've experienced with a paid team we worked through another client, and yeah, it's a bit
of a nightmare. Let's talk about things that are out of our control. I know that we see things as well, Danny, but if both of you can talk from your different sides where there are ranking factors, but also things that are out of our control if the merchant changes shipping costs and things like that, the importance of getting it right.
Yeah, so from a paid element, pricing and offers, making sure one, pricing matches, I think is key to the website. I think 9 times out of 10 clients don't have enough budget to push every single product that they've got at the same level that they want. So pricing's always an interesting one as well. Google's automated annotations that they will do, whether it's a sale, a discount, a new product coming to market. Google, I've seen in the past, Google flag products that are new, but they've not. They've been around for 6 months, but because that's the first time that that's starting to get a click or get shown within the structure of the ads account, because other products are winning, because it's based on ROAS, that gets tagged as a new product. Or likewise, when we've got clients that are running products that are discounted and Google are not showing the was price and not showing the strike through of that and then dropping it down to the sale price, just going straight in at sale price because it's never been shown and clicked. Again, it's usually around budget and visibility from that side of it. So understanding that and understanding how you can implement that within the merchant center as well to run the promotions within there and add codes, add discount numbers, add all that. Shipping costs. Sorry.
I was just going to say on that point where you just said sometimes it's because there aren't clicks or impressions for that product.
Yeah.
I know that's one of your pet hates, 10,000 SKUs, a £10 a day budget. Just talk to that a bit, because I think there'll be a wide range of Shopify or e-commerce brands watching this, some of which who've got 10,000 SKUs. Talk about why that's an issue.
Yeah, so I look at it and we look at it from a budget per product per day scenario of, okay, we've got X SKUs that we're trying to push and we've got X budget per month, and you divide the budget per month by, let's say, 30 days on average, those SKU numbers don't change. You're still trying to push 3,000, 10,000 SKUs every single day for that daily budget. So when we've looked at it and when you start looking at clients where, from a pitch that we did a couple of weeks ago, where I think it was 21 cents per product per day, they were pretty much like putting at the side of a product and saying, okay, there's 21 cents, hope it sells, and it's £80. That's going to be a really, like, that ROAS needs to be massively extraordinary to get that. Equally, you're not going to be able to get the visibility across every product at the right level and the same level that you want, or you can start getting complex and bringing in buying teams into this, and then buying teams wanting visibility on different products and brands, but actually it's not profitable and it's not for the margin.
You have to be strategic with the size of your budget, the number of SKUs you have, and understand that it's got to be right sized. And if there is a range that you need to push that's about to go on sale, if that visibility needs to be there to show the before and after price, you've got to build that into the strategy in the preceding 30 days to get then the outcome of the before and after price.
Yeah, it's being strategic with it, and it's communication. We did a call with a client yesterday, like looking at a particular product range that they've got. So we've made those changes to try and drive that, because they've got stock of that product, but the other products were doing so well in the category. We were going after profitability and revenue and margin on the right products, which was completely the right strategy. And he was the client was pushing it to the board to go, we can't push this because it's not that profitable. Actually, we're going to test it and we're going to try and push. And again, it's that testing mentality about communication with clients to go, let's try it, let's see what we can do. Can we get the revenue upon that product and push it? But it's, again, having the budget to be able to do that is always going to be the crux of everything.
Challenge. Callum, talk about this quality score and the factors that are out of your control.
Yeah. Similarly to what Danny said, I think the biggest one is pricing and offers. For us, like from an organic shopping perspective, if you are the most expensive version of that product, you will consistently be handicapped. And that's just something, this might be a tough pill to swallow, but it's something you have to appreciate, which is where that segmenting piece comes in. It's like exactly like the way that Danny approaches it, that segmenting the areas where you can win, where profitability is higher for the client. Because that is like pretty much out of your control. We work with like quite a few brands that have retailers, and the retailers often buy a lot of stock at, like, say, the start of the season. By the end of the season, that stock is 20% cheaper than the brand can actually sell it for. So you can see like the sort of rotation that we have to go on in terms of the products we focus on. Then there is areas around shipping speed and cost where we're in an area at Resignal where we're quite lucky that this hasn't been much of a bottleneck for our clients, but it can be. Like if you have a bad shipping experience and it's slow and it costs a lot, you're not going to, again, because you have to give all this information to Google, you're just not going to have the same sort of visibility, and the same goes for returns. All of this feeds into something called like the top quality store program, essentially, which if you look through the factors that influence it, a lot of them sit brand side or client side, and it's not necessarily, you can only push them in the right direction by sharing the information, I think.
It's hard, isn't it? If reviews are poor quality, or like you say, if everyone else is doing free shipping and the brand isn't, it becomes a challenge. I have no idea what this diagram means. Do you want to talk us through it, Callum? But it's very pretty.
Yeah. So this was like this is like a fundamental idea of structuring your content on your website so it's easier to understand. So say you have all your product data and it's all available. The search engines still need to crawl that product data. If you have a really disjointed structure on your website, so these two graphs, I should say, are what's called a force-directed crawl diagram. It's essentially a representation of what happens when a crawler hits your site, like a simulation. And for an e-commerce site, they should look like something on the right. None of them do. By the way, this is like an ideal picture, but it's a lot easier for the search engines to get that information if your website is structured this way. It's a massive project if your site's looking like it is on the left, though.
Yeah, but it's definitely something that well, yes, I was going to say needs to be future proofed. We have touched a little bit on future proofing, but ads in ChatGPT aren't in the UK yet, but they are going to be coming and being purchasing off-site on either marketplaces, affiliate links, or within the AI results. And AI search max is something that Google are pushing a lot at the moment. We're going to have in fact, I might also just pop up a link to say, definitely take a look at our resources, because there's going to be a whole new series on AI Search Max that we're going to be doing, because it's going to make a big difference to shopping accounts, e-commerce brands. I also do have a question at this point. Here we go. Poor Callum gets cut off when we put up a question. I'm sorry, Callum, we can't see your face now. Quick question for the panel. If you had to advise an advertiser to optimize just one or two of their product attributes to get the most impact quickly, what would it be? Danny, it's a good job it's a question for you, because we can't see Callum now.
Product type. I think it's so undervalued. I think it's undervalued and empty majority of the time from when we start working with brands. Yeah, that would be the one that I would try to follow the website, try to follow how you're structuring the website. So if it's a trainer's example, it's, it may be clothing or footwear, clothing and footwear into like follow that. But also don't be scared don't segment by that within the ads campaign, but then start testing it with putting some additional keywords in there, like best or other competitor names. So we've done it before with other brands where we've seen impact on it. But I think product type's undervalued, I think.
Awesome. Callum, a kind of sum up of, is there anything that you particularly want to get across that we've not had a chance to cover because that 30 minutes has flown by, or just one kind of message you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah. So I would say the key message is that optimizing for organic shopping, it does benefit paid, but optimizing for organic shopping right now, if you are not doing, will have an immediate impact on your bottom line revenue. It's not like traditional search where you have to wait for it to take effect. It's not, you can test and learn really quickly with growing your revenue. but the actions you'll be taking as part of that will be foundational for the future of shopping from an AI perspective. Yeah, so super important. You know, as soon as we can buy in SERP in most markets, which is very likely going to happen soon in terms of like a AI mode rollout for Google Pay. When that happens, like, you want to be visible, and all of this product data is the foundation for that to happen.
Definitely. Danny, one thing that you want to leave us with?
I would say the same as Callum. I think foundations, getting the data there, is the way that paid is going, the way that the whole platform is going from the universal protocol that's coming in, like that's going to need some filling in. And if we just focus on paid and you get your paid 100% and it's because we put it right, what's going to be the negative impact on an SEO point of view and visibility from there, and how's that going to then take the adverse effect?
I think that is a great place for us to leave it. So definitely SEO and PPC is better when there's collaboration, when there's an understanding of the different levers that both of you can pull. But ultimately, the foundations are going to be the same to benefit both teams. And so let's get those foundations right, and let's start it ASAP, because Q4 will be here before we even realize. I had to mute myself at one point there because I don't know if you could hear the lambs in the background, but that's living in the countryside for you. So thank you so much, Callum. Thank you so much, Danny. Definitely follow our page on LinkedIn, because we'll be doing another LinkedIn Live soon all about AI Search Max, and also learnings from Google Marketing Live that has just wrapped up in the last few days. So thank you, everyone. I hope you stay cool.